would just rather that other people be involved and like step up to the plate. So I feel like kind of his point with calling on Europe to actually, you know, be in their own backyard, or if they're going to call on the U.S. to send troops, then they should send troops as well. I think half of his point there is like that Europe should be the one to set the precedent because they're the ones that are right there. They're the ones that are at the most risk of Russia and the ideology that they're spreading in that continent. So I feel like Europe could be more helpful in setting the precedent than maybe we could.
Well, it's just, you know, I feel like it's like you're forgetting the lessons of World War II, you know what I mean? We were like, we're going to let Japan handle, you know, do whatever it wants in the East. We're going to let Germany do whatever it wants in Europe.
You saw eventually.
And then it came to us. Like, you know, that Japan's ambitions, you know, their nationalistic ambitions spread ever and ever further. And eventually it came into contact with us, you know what I mean? And they attacked us. And you can't let like nationalists like Putin, like Hitler, you can't let them just go unchecked. You have to stop them. And, you know, I think Ukraine's been doing a really good job even without escalating the conflict. I mean, Russia has had to call on North Korea to help them. They've had to port like North Korean troops all the way over to help them, and they're like deleting all of their Soviet stockpiles of ammunition and like guns and stuff.
And they're pulling out tanks from the 50s and the 40s.
Yeah, like that's how low their reserves are. They're like destroying all of the leftovers from the Soviet Union, and they're basically de-arming themselves by just, you know, because Ukraine can be stronger than Russia because we just have better technology. So. And the Ukrainians have like the fighting spirit to keep going, and as long as the Ukrainian people want to keep prosecuting the war, it's really only a win-win situation for the West. I mean,
that's exactly what I was
hand it over.
I completely agree with that. I think that little bit of 1% funding we were talking about earlier is so worth it. That 1% to almost completely dismantle the Russian state, like military, like the Russian military will, like if we continue to fund Ukraine to hold against Russia and maybe even push them back eventually, Russia will not be on the geopolitical scale for a while because their military will be so destroyed, their economy will be destroyed. This 1% that we've sent to Ukraine has single-handedly stunted Russia for 3 years. Could you imagine if we didn't send anything? They would have curb stomped Ukraine within a few weeks if we didn't help them at all.
I guess just some clarification. We went from talking about setting precedent, and we can't let him get away with this, and we have to show him who's boss, and we have to stop these nationalistic movements too. Well, I don't know. Ukraine's doing fine. Let's just let them keep doing what they're doing. I'm confused.
We're kind of saying that continue to help Ukraine to hold the precedent that you can't just roll over a nation because you want to take their land. We're saying like let Ukraine keep doing what they're doing now by fighting.
Support them and
support them.
Don't like attack and how. Okay.
Let do what we've been doing now by helping them as much as like by sending the equipment, letting them fight, but not sending our own troops. Let them handle it, but give them as much equipment they can and financial support to show that you can't just walk into a country because it shows that the West will send supplies and aid to any country in need from an imperialist country like Russia or China.
Yeah, Ukraine. It's basically saying Ukraine can set the example. We can provide like the equipment and stuff for them to be to provide the example.
If Ukraine wins, it shows to the rest of the world that if you stand up and you fight, you can win. That's the whole point. And if Ukraine loses, it's going to show to all these smaller countries with bigger neighbors that want to take them over. It's like, what if we do get invaded? We're not going to have a fighting chance because the U.S. isn't going to help anymore. Europe isn't in the class to do it because their military industry is so much weaker and they're trying to build it up, but that won't be for another few years. These countries can do whatever they want to us right now. Maybe we do just got to bend the knee.
I totally get that. I do think though with nationalist movements specifically, they're not necessarily logical, like ever. Like they're just set on getting as much for themselves as possible in a short amount of time. But I do totally understand setting that. Like it would be like reassuring to smaller countries, especially all the ones that border Russia way too.
Yes, exactly.
Did you want to?
It kind of separating into a different topic, but we only have like a little bit left of time, and I know we didn't really cover too much on like the stuff that's been going on with Mexico and Canada. If like, do you guys have like any like thoughts on that? Because I think it's we're not being great neighbors right now.
No, we're
definitely.
I think it's I mean, it's kind of just like what we're like ruining our reputation like in Europe, but like here, you know what I mean? Like, you know, if we're driving Canada to see, like, we can't rely on America anymore. Let's try and like reach out for like alternative investment. And I mean, it doesn't help us at all because like, you know, Canadian manufacturing, you know, really helps us out, especially on like those northern, like, you know, Rust Belt states like that.
Oh, definitely.
Like, you know, being able to import materials from Canada to that like belt of industry is actually incredibly useful, you know, for a domestic. And, you know, it's like when you put a tariff on something, I mean, this happened like during during his first term, right? He, you know, put like all this tariffs on steel. So steel becomes more expensive, which is good for the steel industry, but every other industry that requires steel to make things is going to suffer. And I mean, people who voted for Trump that worked in like, you know, like fittings and like nail manufacturing plants, their plants got closed down because steel was too expensive to like source, and that like actually destroyed a few industries, and, you know, they lost their jobs because of it. So I mean, it's really just, it's kind of just a self-destructive maneuver.
I think it's like give and take. Like it strengthens one industry, it collapses another. It's like there's no good choices necessarily, but I think like some of the reasoning is kind of funny because I saw there was like a comment made about building like a border around Canada, like because of like the drugs coming in from Canada, and like we're the cause of their drugs. Let's just be honest.
Drugs, they're probably not even that good. So.
I mean, if anything, it's probably Canada probably needs to build a wall on their southern border because we're the ones that are most likely smuggling the stuff into their country.
I think I saw a statistic that said something like of all the fentanyl across like that came from over the borders, the vast majority of it does come from Mexico because it goes from a large portion of the drug cartels and everything is, but it's like 0.75% comes from Canada. It is like nothing. It is minuscule.
I wonder what the statistics of it getting to the United States and the United States bringing it to Canada.
We're single-handedly pumping Canada full of that. They're probably, honestly, most of the stuff, that's 0.75%, is probably just resold American stuff. I guarantee it. It's probably that's what it is.
I'm somewhat convinced that it's all the controlling, especially with Trump repeatedly saying the 51st state like as many times as he can. I think it's just a competition between like him and Trudeau of like who is the better man or whatever. I just think it's so silly. And then he even has like the press secretary out there making comments, and I'm like, this has to be trolling. Like I swear they're just doing it for the clips, just to piss Trudeau off.
I can't tell entirely because like I thought that he was joking when he said he was going to rename the goal, and
He did it.
He named it.
Wow.
This is a little off topic, but have you guys seen that? Okay, there's the Canadian election is in October of this year. For the Liberal government, which is more of a left centrist party, kind of like our Democratic Party, a little bit more left wing because they actually got like universal health care and stuff like that. But the point is, they were in power since like 2015. They've been in power for a minute. Their popularity collapsed since COVID. Because of inflation, price of living, housing, their popularity collapsed, and the Conservative Party skyrocketed in support. Ever since Trump got elected, the Conservative Party has collapsed because a lot of Canadians are seeing what's happening over the border and are like, we don't want that, and they're like, maybe the Liberal Party's better. The first time since I think 2022, the Liberal Party is now over the Conservative Party now, and I think it just happened like yesterday.
Yeah, the Liberal Party was saved because the conservatism got like, basically the Canadians are like, wow, that's not the path.
We don't need that,
I
no.
think it probably will because from what I've seen, they are leaning more liberal right now. But I wonder because so many people do really dislike Trudeau. Like,
But Trudeau's not the prime minister anymore. He dropped out. It's Mike Carney or something like that. Yeah, they just had a leadership election just a little bit ago.
Oh, okay.
That's partially
it was the Liberal Party election.
Yeah.
And he was chosen, and since they're still the working majority there, he's the prime minister, but he's not a member of the parliament, and so they have to have a general election of the two parties, or they just have to have a general election, and there's going to be a Conservative Party candidate as well.
Yeah, but Mike Carney, like he's like revived the party because now it's like, oh, he's a bit of an outsider now. He has no ties with it. He's very popular. He skyrocketed their support. They're upwards like they were before when Trudeau was still it. They were polling at like 22%. Now they're at like 48%. They completely turned it around. And honestly, if they could ride this high for a while, they can honestly win the election this October by a landslide.
I mean, especially if they like position themselves as like,
That's what they've been doing.
Like, you know, we are going to stand up for Canada.
That's what they've been
Trump.
doing.
Exactly.
The Conservative Party was acting like they were the patriotic one, but then they like I forget what the Pierre or something like that, which is the leader of the Conservative
Oh yeah,
Party.
he was like,
He's kind of sympathizing to Trump a bit, while the Liberal Party did the complete 180 and they're like, actually, we're the patriotic one. Canada, we're the Canadian party.
yeah, we're the Canada first.
And they're
party.
the one that was standing up against Trump. They're the ones that were backing Canadian industry and Canadian populations. Like we're Canadian. We're not American. This is our identity. And a lot of Canadians were being threatened by the U.S. We're like, I think the Liberal Party has the best party for us now. And they're doing great now. It's crazy to see the switch.
All right, we are heading towards the end. In terms of final thoughts, where do you think we're headed in the next few years? Is it going to be more of the same? Is it going to be more of the same just under Trump? Is it going to be more of the same for the foreseeable future? Do you think there are going to be any changes? What do you think?
I think just
Just like the basic pattern of presidencies. He's obviously going to do probably more in this year than he will for the next 3 years after. And just like our, party system that we were talking about earlier, how one person comes in and changes everything to the last person. So I think it'll slow down, but like still keep up with the same kind of ideology.
yeah. I'm just saying like the main like result of this, like regardless of whether we decide to keep going isolationist or try and re-enter the world stage, is like going forward, America's like the good faith and good credit that we have is like completely squandered now. And like Europe is going to like fully be like trying to search for its independence from us and trying to like split away from us in the future.
If that's the case, do you think we will be able to resume our previous position if we want to?
Yeah, that's the thing. And like I don't know if it's like so bad. I mean, especially like, I don't know what's going to happen over the entire 4 years. Like, I don't know if like we're going to do even more catastrophic damage, but like it may very well not be possible to restore like America's place in the world stage until like, something like happens to like allow America to like gain its goodwill back.
Yeah.
Last word.
You talked about in our presidency class about how the U.S. kind of goes through like phases where like it's predominantly ruled by like a certain group for a while, like the New Deal, like with the from like the 30s all the way up to Reagan era, and then Reagan for the last 40 years. But how like for the last few elections we're just flip-flopping between Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. We have not had a consistent like a Democrat and then a Democrat or Republican and a Republican. It's been flip-flopping.
It's been back and forth.
So.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it is, once Trump goes in the 2028 election, it's probably iffy to see who's going to, I think Democrats might take back and then it's going to go flip-flop again. I don't think the U.S. can ever recover because a lot of people outside the U.S. are going to see it's like, oh, Democrats won now. They're going to try to recover the foreign, our place that we used to have. What's going to happen in another 4 years? This is going to flip right back again. We can't trust these. We can't trust them anymore. Unless something crazy happens where there is a shift now, where we fully go back where it's a bipartisan thing where we agree to go back to how we were in the 90s and everything with like just working together. I don't see it ever going back to what it was. I don't see it ever happening again. It's sad.
Okay, I just want to say we had a bit of a live stream failure in the middle of this, so if you look for it on our YouTube channel, you're going to see 2 videos instead of 1. I'll try and mark that off on there. And Evie, do you want to close us out? Do we have a topic for next week?
I'm unsure about the topic just yet, but you can check out our Instagram or our GroupMe to find out more information on what next week will be. And thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you next week.
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they're all UNG-PSSA. Look for us on there. See you next week.
Very special.
I'm gonna have to talk to Dominic about next week because I think he was trying to get Professor G to come